No mirror left to hold, no outline to defend. What I thought was mine was never mine to begin. Strip the name off the surface layer, pull the mask from the inner narrator. What you call self was a borrowed frame, a temporary label without a flame. I don't steer this by ego weight, I don't move by impulse or debate. The motive isn't born in me, it flows through what remains of me. When the noise went silent, when the image fell, what stayed was an identity, it was something else. No self to defend, no self to defend, no image to sell. Empty hands open, empty vessel, not driven by want, not shaped by will. Spirit moves the motive and I stay still. There's no crown left to protect, no narrative to project. What I was dissolved in the light, not erased, just set right. I don't alter the current I ride, I don't generate what guides. If anything flows through this frame, it isn't mine to claim. No more identity, no more design, no more constructing a version of mine. If there's fire in motion, if there's truth in the tone, it's not self-expression, it's not my own. I tend to defend, no inness to sell. Empty hands open, empty vessel, not driven by one, not shaped by will. Spirit moves the mold, I stay still.
It's not misunderstanding, it's resistance. That's the difference.
God said be wise, not loud, not proud. Wise, test what you're told, don't swallow the sound. But question and comfort get you pushed from the crowd. They don't hate lies, they hate disruption. Truth costs pride, that's the obstruction. They were given a mind and told to use it, but thinking feels like something to lose with. So they shut down thought, call it peace, labeled discernment as offense. Local rejection protocol, familiar voice ignored, too close to see, so truth gets warped. Wisdom sounds harsh in a comfort built home. They don't want depth, they want tone. They want tone. They don't want depth. A prophet near is easy to dismiss. You've seen the flaws, so you forget the gift. Familiarity dulls the weight of the word, and fear of exposure makes clarity absurd. Even in circles that speak his name, if insight stings, they call it blame. They'd rather keep the illusion intact than let a mirror give vision back. I'm not surprised, just tired watching lambs defend a system that keeps them wired. Wisdom isn't cruel, it's clean, but clean feels sharp to a heart that hasn't seen. They don't want depth. So truth gets warped, wisdom sounds harsh in a comfort-built home. They don't want depth, they want tone.
Some of us saw it early. Some of us didn't. Same faith, different shadows. You stood in the light of a guarded room. Never smelled what was growing in darker wombs. Never felt how deception can dress like grace, or how evil can smile with a righteous face. You preached from a place that was mostly clean, and I thank God that you never saw what I've seen. But depth is expensive when truth gets real, and some of us learn through wounds that heal. It's not that you don't love Christ, it's not that you don't believe, it's just that insulation changes what you perceive. Unequal exposure, same Lord, different sight. Some of us walked through shadow and came back with light. Not hardened, not lost, just to wear the cost when you've seen what hides under polished gloss. You want about wolves, but you never been hunted. Never watched how the subtle corrupt the abundant. Never traced how the systems entwine with the flesh and the pride and disguise their design. And I don't blame you, I wouldn't wish that weight, but don't dismiss the depth of the one shaped by that state. Because sometimes the wounded can recognize tone in ways the intested have never been shown. The veil isn't always rebellion, sometimes it's shelter, sometimes it's comfort that keeps vision smaller. And I grieve, not because you're wrong, but because you don't see how wide this war has grown. Unequal exposure, same Lord, different sight. Some of us walked through shadow, came back with light. Still faithful, still bow, still under his name, just carrying knowledge you never had to gain. Unequal exposure, same Lord, different sight. Some of us walked through shadow, came back with light.
You judged it faster.
And never checked.
To bring something sincere and watch it drown in borrowed fear. You heard the noise, you called it proof. You never paused to test the roof. You trust the whisper before the wait. You seal the door before the wait. Not false, not flawed, just new to frame, but new gets filed under blame. A guarded ear, a narrow view, and something real didn't make it through. Access constrained by secondhand sound. Something touch ground. Access constrained by reflex defense. Reaction first, discernment absent. It's not just faith, it's mirrored wide. Different flags, same divide. Surface reading, quick conclusion. Comfort dressed as resolution. Yeah, you don't have to like every design, but if it's rooted, why cut the line? Some reach grows through altered tone, but you shut it down before it's known. It hurt, I know that cause. I felt the shift when trust is lost. Not rage, not pride, just quiet strain when something real gets weighted. Access constrained by secondhand sound. Something honest, never touched ground. Access constrained by reflex defense. Reaction first, discernment absent.
Not forced, just steady.
I don't move on every sound. I don't chase what spins around. I've seen how noise can take control, so I step back and guard the soul. Direction doesn't always shout. Sometimes it's what filters out. Not every door is meant to break. Some paths are the ones you wait. There's a pull that doesn't strain. It steadies me through doubt and rain. Guided when I could drift. I've walked through heat and glass, watch moments fade too fast. Some nights I lived I can't explain, but something held through shock and strain. Not luck, not chance, not random thread. The one who walked from death instead. He doesn't shout, he doesn't prove. He bore the weight so I can move. No flashing sign, no lifted voice, just quiet strength beyond the choice. The grave was sealed but didn't stay. That's why I don't get swept away. Guided when I could drift.
Just clear. Go on.
but it doesn't forge.
If every edge is patted down and every doubt avoids the ground, if comfort wraps around belief, it never learns to carry grief. You know the lines, you know the frame, but haven't stood inside the flame. When pressure hits and fear draws near, soft conviction disappears.
Untested strength feels firm at rest until it's asked to stand the test. Untested, unchallenged, unprepared to stand.
When fear restricts the reach of man,
Untested, guarded ground.
faith stay small if fear is crowned.
There's more in those pages than the parts we repeat. More weight than the verses we keep on safe repeat. Growth isn't gained in padded rooms. It forms when faith faces the gloom. You don't lose truth by walking far. You lose it more when you stay where you are. If light won't leave its sheltered hall, it won't reach dark at all.
Silence can sound like peace, but sometimes it's retreat. Strength isn't loud display, it's ground you refuse to leave. Untested, unchallenged, prepared to stand.
When fear restricts the reach of man,
Untested, guarded ground.
faith stay small if fear is crowned.
They miss the voice, but not the echo. They doubted the source, but not the tremor. They turned from light, called shadow truth, feared the depth, protected youth.
Sheltered minds call it peace, but peace without weight will fracture beneath. Comfort builds thin belief, unexposed, incomplete.
I don't compete with louder tones, noise collapses on its own. Signal stays when hype decays, truth survives without applause. Foundation,
Below the frame,
not for praise.
not for name,
Foundation,
under sound.
even buried, still profound. Prophets walk without a claim, wisdom speaks without a stage.
Rejection isn't proof of wrong. Sometimes silence proves it's strong. rotate, layers change, but not the base. Foundation, calm and clear, not dramatic, still here, not louder, just deeper.
Remove the witness. The structure doesn't move. Silence the voice. The measure remains. What they opposed was never personality. It was alignment. You can fracture visibility. You cannot fracture foundation. You can erase the surface. You cannot erase the frame. No spectacle follows. No announcement. No correction campaign. Just gravity. Truth is not sustained by applause. It is sustained by design. And design does not panic when ignored. They celebrated absence. But absence does not alter structure. It only alters comfort. Every system rests on something. Every narrative leans on an axis. And if the axis remains, the system will eventually recalibrate. What is built on weight holds. What is built on fog collapses. No intervention required. Only time. The core was never theirs to remove. It was never ours to defend. It simply is. Core construct.
Two witnesses stood, not louder than the culture, just clearer. The text says fire came from their mouths, not flame. Speech, language that dismantled insulation. When truth removes cover, it feels like heat. That's the fire. They didn't summon spectacle. They described rot. They didn't conjure plague. They named what was already decaying. And decay resents diagnosis. Judgment isn't thunder. It's measurement. A scale placed in a tilted room. An imbalance hates calibration. They won't be hated for violence, they'll be hated for exposure. Because conviction feels like attack when you benefit from fog. They speak to systems, systems wear faces, faces feel seen, and the seen resist.
When the witnesses fall, relief will rise. When the mirror breaks, comfort survives. When the voice goes quiet, celebration begins. When the witnesses fall, silence wins.
The beast doesn't kill rage, it kills interruption. It kills the pressure of being measured. It kills the voice that refuses to flatter corruption. Bodies left visible, public, unhidden. 3 days in the street, not to display power, to display relief. See? 3 days without being examined. 3 days without scale. 3 days without conviction. They exchanged gifts because discomfort ended, because tension lifted, because clarity stopped, not because evil triumphed, because judgment paused it. Fire was never spectacle, it was speech. Judgment was never fury, it was exposure. And exposure is intolerable to a world that prefers fog. And every age produces witnesses. And every age celebrates when they fall. When they fall.
When the witnesses fall, relief will rise. When the mirror breaks, comfort survives. When the voice goes quiet, celebration begins. When the witnesses fall, silence wins.
Remove the witness, structure doesn't move. Silence the voice, the measure remains. What they opposed was never personality, it was alignment. You can fracture visibility, you cannot fracture foundation. You can't erase the surface, you cannot erase the frame. No spectacle follows, no announcement, no correction campaign, just gravity. Truth is not sustained by applause. It is sustained by design, and design does not panic when ignored. They celebrated absence, but absence does not alter structure. It only alters comfort. Every system rests on something, every narrative leans on an axis. And if the axis remains, the system will eventually recalibrate. What is built on weight holds. What is built on fog collapses. No intervention required, only time. The core was never theirs to remove, it was never ours to defend. It simply is core construct.